there's so many abandoned groves. There's so many people leaving farming, even in this country. But we see this a lot in the Mediterranean with these farmers. And I was like, there's no incentive. Like, why toil all day in the sun and work so hard for something when no one's actually going to pay you? Yeah, I was like, what if I paid you more than you make in this commodity system? Because we work so closely with farmers, like their problems are our problems.
Yeah.
The climate crisis is our huge problem. It is our biggest barrier in a lot of ways.
One belief about food you have completely changed your mind on.
That fat is good for you. Fat is so good.
Yeah.
But the quality of fat is like paramount in that decision. I talk to a lot of young founders all the time who want to price competitively out the gate. Don't. Like, do not price, like, you cannot go back up. So start high and then you can go down. Don't start. Like, these people are barely making any money off their sales, nothing to reinvest, nothing to grow, nothing that's sustainable, nothing that's going to incentivize, retail.
What's been your lowest low of building Citizens of Soil?
One of our batches from our second producer that we ever brought over, who's still like one of our extra rares, her oil came over. And everyone always orders it right away, like it's on pre-order and people want it. And the batch was at the bottling facility and they connected the machinery wrong and it all went down the drain. And it was a year's worth of her work.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to a special sponsor, Sam Lawrence Recruitment. We all know that finding the right people or the right job can feel really overwhelming, and that's exactly where Sam comes in. He really just gets it. It's not just about ticking boxes, it's about connecting the right people with the right opportunities. He takes the time to understand you and exactly what you're looking for, whether you're building a team or taking that next career leap. So definitely get in touch. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Charlie is a 3-time founding member of Startup Brands, taking each from 0 to 1 million within 18 months. Across different categories, channels and countries, including launching operations in the US and Australia. He is now the founder of Plug-in Brands, an award-winning outsourced FMCG sales agency working with the fast-growth food and drink brands, and Dive-In Agency, a TikTok shop agency helping brands turn social commerce into real revenue. With a background in go-to-market strategy, brand development and distribution through retail and wholesale channels, there isn't anyone better placed to help you supercharge your brand. Charlie and the Plug-in Brands team work with a host of brands, including Moju, Muller, Clipper Tea, Who Gives a Crap, and Lovecorn. So if you're in need of an extra pair of hands to really step on your growth this year, Charlie is the guy you need to be in touch with. Now, if you're running a product business and your inventory lives across spreadsheets, emails, and about 6 different systems, this one's definitely for you. Unleashed is an inventory management platform built for manufacturers, wholesalers, and retailers, giving you one source of truth across your stock, orders, and operations. It automates the repetitive stuff too, things like purchase orders, stock updates, low stock alerts, so that your team can focus on growing the business, not firefighting. They're already trusted by brands like Candy Kittens, Perfect Head, Borough Broth, and Refi, and they integrate with tools you're already probably using, including Shopify, QuickBooks, and Salesforce. So if you're scaling a product business and want to get your operations under control, head over and start a free 14-day trial. And as a Getting to Grow listener, you'll get 1 month free using the code GTGPOD. Getting to Grow is also brought to you by the Coconut Collab. And full disclosure, as I'm sure most of you are aware, I work there. So I know how much love goes into everything that we make. We're all about creating delicious, dairy-free, plant-based treats that do not compromise on taste. From our creamy yogurts to our indulgent desserts, everything's made with coconuts and a whole lot of care. If you're looking for something naturally good but seriously tasty, and my favourite is just our natural coconut yogurt, I have it most mornings with granola and lots of honey. Trust me, you're going to absolutely love it. Sarah, welcome to Getting to Go. I'm very excited to have you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy you could come here to our offices.
Yes, I'm being hosted by you, which is so fun. So on today's episode, we have Sarah Vachon, who is the founder of Citizens of Soil, which we have in the background over here. Some 10 out of 10 olive oil, which looks amazing. And I love the fact that it's in like a wine bottle. I'm obsessed with that branding. So actually, let's start with that. Tell me about the bottle and the branding.
So it's in a wine bottle, well, for a couple of reasons. The main one being that the family we started this with, our close family friends, are winemakers in the wine region of Crete, the island of Crete in Greece. And so we were kind of inspired by like this connection. And then like the more we got into olive oil, we realized that historically these were the same growers and the same producers in the same regions. So everywhere that you grow wine, for the most part, you can grow olives. And so even just today, I had a call with producers and we were talking about the labor that we use. The labor in the groves comes on from the wine, the people who are harvesting the grapes, and then they move to olives. So it has this like intrinsic connection. Also, whenever you start to think about like the profiles and how all these different varieties and flavors that come out of extra virgin olive oil, much like you see in wine, whenever I studied olive oil, I got my certification as a wine sommelier. So that same crossover exists in how it can elevate food and change depending on which oil you select or which wine you select. And then there was just the fact that I tried loads of different bottles when I was starting the business, and I had, like at one point, like 50 different bottles floating around the kitchen, and I was just seeing which one I enjoyed pouring with. And I thought, I just love the way that this burgundy wine bottle feels. So this is going to be the one.
It's really nice and like premium, and it looks really intriguing. Like if I saw it on a shelf, I'd want to go over and be like, oh, that's not wine. What is this?
This is what we get a lot. People are like, when I used to do samplings and Selfridges, and everyone would come up and be like, oh, is this wine? Is this wine? I'd always be like, extra virgin, just like shouting that because people thought they would just have a little shot of wine.
It looks great. So take us right back to the beginning. Where were you in your life, your career, when the idea for Citizens of Soil came about?
So I was working in sustainability. I've had a career in food and drink, and so is my partner. He still actually works in craft spirits. He's been like an international whiskey judge, and
wow,
and then Jen. So he has an incredible palate. He has a big understands the nuance of provenance and where things come from and how they taste differently, like the aspects of terroir that we see in wine. He had a big appreciation for that. But I was working in sustainability, doing big deep dives into food and drink supply chains, and really understanding a lot of the issues in our food system from a environmental and a social perspective. So we were doing projects around coffee and tea and looking at, in particular, the people that were doing the work at the first mile, like the laborers, the smallholder producers and farmers who were rewarded the least as this commodity exchanged hands over and over and got sent to all these middlemen throughout. And everyone was taking a cut and holding it till the value. No one was incentivizing quality. No one is incentivizing nutrition. And I was seeing this kind of happen in olive oil. And as a result, when you don't pay farmers fairly, and you incentivize them purely on the weight of their crop, they are going to produce things and take it to the bulk commodity and cooperative mills that are just paying them on that. So they will cut every corner when it comes to quality, and they will cut every corner when it comes to the land, because they are not making enough for a good livelihood. I mean, there's so many abandoned groves. There's so many people leaving farming, even in this country. But we see this a lot in the Mediterranean with these farmers. And I was like, there's no incentive. Like, why toil all day in the sun and work so hard for something when no one's actually going to pay you? No wonder they're sending their kids off to be like, do anything but this. Literally in Greece, they're telling their children, do anything but this farming. And yet it's this superfood in the case of extra virgin olive oil, going back to antiquity. So I was like, I was seeing all this in the sustainability space happen and unfold. I was seeing systems like in coffee and chocolate and people having a craft and fair and artisan movement around those categories. And I thought this should be happening with olive oil, this other ingredient that's been with us since ancient times. How can I incentivize farmers? And so that was the headspace whenever we started the business. We also happened to have really close family friends who were small scale producers. And I was able to be there during harvest and learn more about it and really get like an appreciation in a way that like almost you could only get as an outsider, because I see sometimes that I try to convince our Greek pseudo family about how incredible it is. They're like, sometimes they don't see it. They love it from like a, family connection, but sometimes they don't see the magic that you see as an outsider coming in. I was like, what if I paid you more than you make in this commodity system? So you could reinvest in the land. So you could do some of the things that you've dreamt of doing, but also just build in biodiversity, build in more resiliency, invest in like soil health. What if I do that? Can we like make this, business together? And that really became the foundation of it. And that's what still exists today. Me finding incredible small farmers, incentivizing them on sustainability, on nutrition, on regenerating their groves. I'll pay you more for a better outcome from a nutritional perspective and a flavor perspective, but also better for your groves. And that became the model.
So you don't just work with one supplier, you work with a variety.
I am about unearthing and curating the finest extra virgin olive oils. I do not care where they come from. No one region has a monopoly on quality, no one variety. I mean, people can have their preferences like you would wine, but I'm just out there to find the best producers doing the best things by the land and by their community, which is also why I work with independent growers, and bringing those to market, celebrating those people.
I've never heard of that model, so that's a really unique way to like bring a product. Well, I haven't on.
It kind of, I mean, it exists. Well, you see it in wine, of course.
You see it in wine, but in a different way of like one business working with variety, like different growers. Because I think in wine you have it more from, I guess, region.
Sure, yeah.
Like South Africa's known for its specific wine, like a Chenin Blanc that comes from that area.
Yeah.
Versus like you don't go elsewhere, whereas you're up for maybe exploring the world with
the
it.
whole world of I mean, we just I was just speaking earlier today with our producer from South Africa because we've launched an oil from the Southern Hemisphere.
Wow.
So South Africa, as we know, has beautiful wines, has this incredible climate that really supports that same harshness but sunshine that the olives need. So yeah, I'm going, and I talked to producers in South America. Japan makes some incredible oils. There's fascinating places that are starting to make oil.
So there's a lot of travel involved.
There is a lot of travel involved. I don't really travel yet, being, still kind of a scrappy startup. I haven't really gone even into the Southern Hemisphere yet. That's the one grove that I haven't visited, although she's come to me twice. But I mainly am in the Med all the time. I'll be there like twice this month.
Wow, gosh, that's kind of a nice perk, right?
It is, but if you heard my travel plans, I mean, I leave on Friday morning, I visit a producer Friday evening, I wake up Saturday, drive 3 hours, go visit another producer, drive an hour, visit a producer, have Sunday off, and then visit a producer, drive another 2 or 3 hours, meet a producer, and then that same day drive back to the airport and fly back to London. So it's not exactly like hanging out by the pool.
Yeah, it's very different.
Groves. It's a bit on the road.
And how do you find your independent growers?
So we started with these close family friends, and to be honest, I think that's all I ever thought the business might be. Like, I just want to help them out, and I want to sell this maybe at like a local farmer's market in London, or that was the extent of what I thought at the beginning. I didn't really, until I started to get into the world of olive oil, I wanted to do my course when I became a certified sommelier. I wanted to start like learning. It kind of set me off on this journey to want to learn about olive oil. And by learning, I started to encounter really interesting people. So I'd be like, why does this region in Croatia win so many awards, more awards per capita than any other region in the olive oil space? I've never even heard of it. I need to go there and find out what's happening. So I literally took a trip, flew into Venice, drove around to this peninsula, the Istria Peninsula, and met all these award-winning producers and went to their facilities and just learned and had chats and conversations. I did the same thing in Portugal. So that started to like open up and me just meet people kind of on my travels. I'm also quite involved. I'm a member of a group called Women in Olive Oil, and we have, at least hundreds, maybe like thousands of members around the world.
Wow.
Supporting the empowerment of women in agriculture particularly. And so I meet a lot of incredible women through there. I look at who wins awards, and now I have this base because I started with like the most incredible farmers you've ever met, like the ones that have a lot of respect in their individual regions. So now people kind of come to us and we get a lot of like referrals. So our producers will sometimes help us find other farmers and other producers, or just like that word of mouth from, the fact that they're working with us.
And is it something that you, I guess, like being an entrepreneur and being a founder, is that something you've always wanted to be and always wanted to do? Or was it more that the opportunity was there and then you kind of like, you took it versus that was going to be your path after coming out of your road in sustainability?
So both my husband and I come from entrepreneurs, all of our parents, particularly my family, my cousins, my uncles, like literally on both sides of my family are all entrepreneurs, for better or for worse, not always the most successful, but we, are like that. And my husband had started a business after his MBA. So I had seen him on this path, for the past 10 years, first 10 years of us being together. He had been an entrepreneur, which isn't very glamorous whenever you're actually in it. You don't make very much money and you're having to take a huge amount of risks and you never get a holiday. But I think it just like drew me in somehow, which is crazy because I do love my holidays, and the fact that I like actually can't take a holiday without my laptop is crazy. But I think there was something to it. I think it was like I had a vision of what I wanted to make, and if it wasn't there and I couldn't find that company to go work for, then I was just going to do it myself.
So like very ambitious and like go-getter energy.
Yeah, I've always banked on my work ethic.
Yeah.
I've gotten more relaxed as I've gotten older, but there was definitely a time in my life that I was like, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I can like outwork anyone. And that has kind of just gotten me through.
I love that. I like that a lot. I can outwork anyone. That's very good sentence. And in the very early days, what did you underestimate most about bringing a food product to market?
I mean, I knew nothing. Like I had mainly spent my career in agency to date, and be it like that sustainability consultancy side or advertising agencies and marketing agencies. And my husband having worked in drinks, I had like an idea of how some of it worked, but the difference in extra virgin olive oil is that it's a fresh ingredient. A lot of people don't treat it like that, but they should, because it is literally the fresh juice of the olive fruit, and so it has like it has a shelf life, and it's better at the very beginning than it is a year on, and 2 years on it's flat, whereas you can sit on a case of whiskey and it's only going to increase in value. So like the whole like, I know I don't have a short shelf life like some of my other food founder brands who have a fresh food. My gosh, I don't know how people do that where you have to shift it in like a week.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, but I have like that concept was like completely new to me, even though it is ambient. Because I deeply care. I want everyone to try it like the first month, but like that's not what actually happens. And so they could try your product, 12 months on, and it's like a bit, more mellow and maybe not how you want it to be presented.
Yeah, I think there is, especially working with fresh versus ambient, it is such a different like kettle of fish.
Totally.
In terms of how you treat the product and supply chain and stuff. So like that's also like, yeah, in the early days can be really just like getting your head around that.
It's just different challenges. On the other side, I have to commit to harvest once a year. I buy everything once a year. I put deposits. My cash flow is insane. No one envies what we have to pay for upfront versus, I suppose, if you're doing fresh, or even my friends that have great other packaged good businesses, they just go to their manufacturer every month and they can place that order or scale up in 2 or 3 months. That's not an option for me. I work with the land. I work with producers, and it's a forecasting I make a year in advance.
Wow. Okay. And talk me through the process of making an olive oil, like basic layman term for anyone listening. Like how is olive oil made?
So extra virgin olive oil so how you make olive oil is you are picking the olive. Olive is a fruit, like a plum or cherry. You're picking that off the tree and you are getting it to the mill as soon as possible. Within half an hour or 2 hours is like how you get to be like one of my extra rares. Other people, it's like within that same day or 24 hours. So you get it to the mill. You kind of mash it into what looks like a tapenade, and then you run it through a centrifuge that just extracts all that oil. And so that oil that comes out from this basic tapenade is virgin oil. So how you become extra virgin is it actually has to undergo a lab analysis and a sensory analysis. And if it passes those two things, then it gets the credentials of extra virgin. Even within extra virgin, that sounds like a lot, because it is. Like there's a huge, quality indicator. You're basically being like, this is, sometimes if you think of people are more familiar with like an apple. So if you take a really crisp apple and you just like immediately like squeeze out, get the juice out, and that freshness and that crispness that comes through, versus if you get one that's bruised up, banged up, maybe already has some brown spots, and then you turn that into a juice. And then if you let that juice sit there for, as you're making it, all these things kind of start to contribute to that quality that we're looking for in extra virgin olive oil. And even in extra virgin, there's quite a wide spectrum, which is where people, I think, now people are understanding a bit more about how extra virgin olive oil, like, oh, it's better for you, and it has this, health properties that the regular olive oil. If it doesn't say virgin, it's refined. And if it's refined, if it's not virgin, then that means it's undergone heat, chemicals. Sometimes it's bleaching and deodorizing, all sorts of things to stretch it as much as possible and remove any defects. And then they add like a little bit of flavor with a virgin oil on top of it. But it is a completely different animal. It is the difference between a fresh squeezed juice and like orange soda. Like that is literally, you're having Fanta or you're having a fresh squeezed orange juice as far from a nutritional and a production. Like the mass process that's happened with this one versus something that's just fresh.
So when I think of olive oil as well, I have my drizzle olive oil, so my stuff that I put on like my salads and that I like top it on my pasta or however, on my eggs, anything that I like to have like served.
Yeah.
And then I have my like cooking olive oil.
Sure.
Am I doing it wrong if I'm cooking with extra virgin olive oil? Like, not like a bog standard one, but like a nicer one, but maybe not the most premium one in the supermarket. And then I have like my bougie one that I buy from like a farm shop, or like I do luckily spend some time in South Africa. And when I'm there, there's a vineyard that I love, and I always buy the olive oil from that, and I bring that home, and that's my drizzle one.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I only use virgin oils and virgin olive oil for like all of my cooking, as most people in the Mediterranean do as well.
Okay.
So that is the cornerstone of the Mediterranean diet, and like that is how it works. If it didn't work, then the Mediterranean diet, and there's a Dr. Simon Poole, he always says this, Dr. Simon Poole here in the UK, who wrote the book on the Mediterranean diet. Like, if extra virgin olive oil didn't work in cooking, then the Mediterranean diet wouldn't exist, because it's the only oil they cook with. So this is the most celebrated diet in the world, and this is the oil that they use.
Okay.
The refined oil is not a thing. It is not a thing from a health perspective. It's not a thing that's been going on for a long time. So you are really looking for extra virgin. But I think it's a cost perspective. Like, why would you use a really expensive oil and pour it all in a pan with potatoes and fry it up? You're going to lose the flavor, and you're going to lose a lot of the nutrition.
Yeah.
So I think it makes complete sense. And a lot of my producers, I do the same thing that they do. We use like a virgin oil or an older oil, maybe last harvest oil. That's what we kind of cook with. And then we finish everything with like a really fresh, zippy, more earlier harvest or just more intense oil. So you're on the right track.
Okay.
I think that's what I tell people to do.
I love olive oil so much. I'm not scared of it either. Like, I'll drizzle it over everything. I'm not like, oh, it's high calorie. I don't care. Like, I want it to coat everything. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, this is a incredible superfood. Dr. Tim Spector often says, if he doesn't believe in superfoods, but if he did, extra virgin olive oil would be that. That would be the one. This is something back since, antiquity has been written about and celebrated, and it's packed full of antioxidants and polyphenols, and the nutritional benefits we're only just uncovering. So like, it is something you should use as a sauce and pour liberally over all your food, because it is just the anti-inflammatory properties alone, and how it's good for your gut and all of this, and feeding your mind and energy. All of these things are like reason to enjoy.
Yeah, life's too short anyway, so just get it in you. And talk us through some maybe like early operational challenges that you had that you didn't see coming.
Well, working with all these different producers was certainly not originally in the plan. And so there's just complications that come from that. Like, a lot of people were like, why don't you bottle in Crete? When we first started with our family, even our family there was like, in their wine facility, they're like, just bottle here. Like, we have the bottles, do it all here. Label, it'll cost you like a fraction of the price. And like, it's better to bottle from source is what a lot of people tell you. But the fact that we set it up always to come to the UK, which was kind of beneficial, because now we work across all these different regions. So it wouldn't really make sense to do that and bottle from one specific place, because then we'd be shipping our glass and packaging all over the Med and back. And, our glass comes from comes from France. So like, that just doesn't make any sense to move it all the way down to Crete. So I think the operation side of working with a lot of small producers is a big challenge, but it's a challenge that I really enjoy. It is both one of the hardest parts of the business and the biggest highlight and delight of the business. But they are not set up for export necessarily, or new terms with Brexit, or what to sell into a grocery store. These supermarkets might say they want to support small farmers and independent businesses. They don't make that process easy. And so there's like a lot of extra admin and paperwork that are put on small producers versus like really big manufacturing centers. So that is quite a challenge.
Yeah, I can imagine you're dealing with so many like suppliers as such, that ultimately it's having to deal with all of that in your diary, as well as just like, there's so much going on for you.
And they all have individual needs. So we just had a call this morning with our producers. There was 12 of them on the call, I think, or 14 of them were able to make it. And this was just like a check-in after Christmas and like harvest updates. So they could all kind of share things together. I mean, you could break those as they're going through. There's a chunk of them that are dealing with labor shortages, a chunk of them that are dealing with climate. Like, I didn't really realize, because we work so closely with farmers, like, their problems are our problems.
Yeah.
The climate crisis is our huge problem. It is our biggest barrier in a lot of ways, to what we're trying to do, because it will knock out 90% of someone's crop one year. I have another call I have to make actually tomorrow for another producer that I'm not going to be able to work with, who we worked with last year, because the crop was so, the quality was just degraded so much by the weather. Again, not really a reflection on the producer, completely outside of their control. But this is, fires, floods. My South African producer just had a fire 5 days ago.
I saw that on the
800,
news.
took out 800 trees. Like, they're about to harvest, they're 2 months away from harvest because it's the southern hemisphere, and 800 trees are gone. So we are dealing on the forefront of a climate crisis when you work this closely with nature, and when you don't have backups to just be like, okay, well, I'll just go to the cooperative and like sort another, or go to this manufacturer and sort another batch.
Yeah, it's so hard. And actually, from my day job, I work as head of like new business / out of home at the Coconut Collaborative, and we are one of the biggest importers of coconuts into the UK, and most of our coconuts come from Sri Lanka, and there's so much weather changes that happen in that country, from like, you can have like a typhoon or all this stuff, and it hugely affects us. Hugely. I mean, coconut is everything we do. When we have no coconuts, there's no product.
Yeah.
So I can understand from that point of view, how, yes, if it's their problem, it's my problem.
Yeah. And I mean, the benefit of having this business that we've created now across regions, which it wasn't to, be able to mitigate that. But it means that one year I can dial up my Spanish oil versus my Greek oil, or I can, go into Italy or try a new region. But it still impacts like the whole Mediterranean. It's having trouble.
And you mentioned earlier about, going to these farmers and saying, look, I'll pay you more, but for quality versus like quantity and on kind of the other stuff that they were maybe previously looking at. How do you afford that? How are you funding Citizens of Soil and able to give the farmer that bit more?
So we set it up that way from the very beginning. So whenever we started with our family, and I was like, looking at the commodity price, and I'm like, I'm going to pay you like triple that commodity price, like whatever was at that time every year. I'm like looking, and because I knew I was going to pay so much more, I knew that the oil had to be beautifully packaged. I mean, I am a career marketer. So I was like, okay, it's not going to be like a rustic, feel like you just picked it up on the Grove. It needs to feel super premium and almost like luxury. And so that informed a lot of the decisions on our packaging. And so making it feel as elevated as the oil is, but justifying that price, I think, for consumers. When I think of when we launched in Selfridges, which is like our first stockist, we're on shelf and the bottle said nothing. It was just like a beautiful, like our little soil print circle, and then it said soil around the side. Like there was just, and it had like a little, like, these are the producers, but it had very little information. It didn't tell you how it was like regeneratively farmed. It didn't really talk about the quality or any of the indicators that we put on the pack now. People just bought it because it was beautiful, and it was just selling out because it was beautiful. And so I think that justification, I was able to afford it because I've packaged it in a way that makes it premium. And yes, that comes at a cost, of course. Like, our labels are more expensive. The bottles that we use, the pours that we use are like the most expensive in the market, like all these decisions that we make. But we hope that building out that brand and that experience helps people like justify the cost.
And also, olive oil is actually something in your kitchen that you keep the bottle. So it's not like other products where maybe you would decant like a packet of pasta. You never keep the packaging of the pasta. You put it in either your container, a plastic container, and then you put it in the cupboard, right? Whereas olive oil, I absolutely do not mind having a beautiful bottle of olive oil sat next to my cooker.
Yeah, so we actually see both. Because we do refill pouches as well.
Yeah.
Because from coming in from the sustainability world, that was like really important, because I was like, gosh, I'm going to make this really beautiful bottle. I don't just want people to throw it out like right away. And like also like, oh, this drizzler is so nice. Like I want this to like last more than like one, bottle use. So we did the refill because we did find that a lot of people, just like you're saying with the pasta containers, they also have like an oil and vinegar container. So it's not uncommon for people to have that. So some people buy our pouches actually and just decant in their own container, or they would buy our bottle and reuse the bottle. But you're right. We have, because it's so beautiful, gifting is big for us. And we hear all the time, people are like, someone brought this to my house, for a dinner party, or my mother gave this to me for my birthday, and it becomes something people want to share and that they're proud to like display because it just looks beautiful in their kitchen.
It's actually a really good idea. I've never really thought of that, because usually for a dinner party, you bring a bottle of wine. But what if that person's not necessarily big into their wine, but they love their cooking?
This was our whole Christmas campaign. It was like,
thought about
over wine. This is something that now when you go to someone's house, it is hard to kind of bring a gift because you're like, who's drinking, who's not drinking? Like there's lifestyle and diet reasons that people aren't doing that. There's also just like, even like other food. Sometimes I was bringing chocolate to someone's house last week and I'm like, do they like chocolate? Are they on a diet because it's like January? Are they not having sugar? You're like having to like think about all those sorts of things, where if you bring, everyone can have extra virgin olive oil. Like there's not a diet or lifestyle that it's not inclusive to, and it's going to last longer the night. And then it's something beautiful for them to have in their pantry or, on their table to remember you by.
It looks lovely. So yeah, very excited to try it as well. And if you were starting again, what is one early decision that you would have made differently?
One thing I often talk about is like, I didn't know what I was doing. I don't think a lot of people do. I didn't really know. I wasn't very clued up on the startup scene, despite being married to like an entrepreneur. Because I think we weren't starting it as a big business to grow and scale. Like we didn't even know we would ever fundraise. Like we didn't really know. We were literally just trying to help our friends and like fix this problem that we saw. And that's kind of all we were after. But had I thought, I suppose, more ambitiously at the time, instead of just wanting to help out my friends, I would have probably got my finances aligned much earlier. Like we came into this project, we had just bought our first house. We had just paid off our wedding debt. Like we had no money. I think when we actually officially launched, we were like full on in COVID. Like it was just like, there was no, my husband had everyone had like been made redundant or not,
on
furlough. It was just a nightmare of a time. And if I had thought about it, I probably wouldn't have done, next time I start a business, I will kind of go to buyers and start pitching out this product before I put up the whole investment.
Yeah.
Because again, we kind of went all in, spent all this money, and then it was probably a year before we were even selling it or getting it ready for market.
Yeah.
And I hear really savvy entrepreneurs, usually second-time entrepreneurs or third-time entrepreneurs, that they get a little mock-up and a little idea and a little sample, and they take this to a buyer and they sell it in, and they have, a guarantee instead of the very slow. But it was just because we weren't trying to build that we didn't go about it. But like, my next business, if I'm trying to do something like that again, I would really go at it like as if it's like a business pitch, instead of spending all my money and time and effort on something that may or may not work.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I think a lot of the founders that come on the podcast it's very 50-50 split. It's very much like some of them they've done the research and they've got the samples and they're running around with their sample before they have like packaging.
Yes.
But then I have the opposite, where they are so obsessed with what they have and their product, they know it will work.
Well, that was us. We were so defiant that we had like the best oil out there. But it still means like you go through a long time without cash.
Yeah, and cash is king.
Without anything. Yeah.
Yeah. And like in terms of the business and the demand of what's on your plate, because you're speaking to so many different producers, what does take the most time and energy currently?
Well, we've just built out the team this year, which was really exciting to have, more of a team around us. So I think I'm starting to let go of some of those things. I still think that the producers and the sourcing and the management of producers has been, like, if I look back at this last year, that was like a big part of my role. Like, not only did I organize a meetup so they could all come together, but it's just like liaising with all of them and getting the sample and going out to visit them and, planning how much, we're going to order, this whole bit, all this stuff that we would need from them. Has it been lab tested, reviewing the lab tests, like supply chain management has taken a lot of time, but all of it is something I enjoy. And then learning D2C, that is not my background. We somehow have this incredible D2C business. I say incredible because it's grown so well without any real strategy or, someone kind of owning it to date. And so that's something that this year I'm looking to have people come in, like outside support and kind of guide, because when it's not something you've done. And it also just will take me like so much longer to do than someone who is an expert. Me setting up a product page and trying to figure out ads and like manage, ad creation and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think actually D2C is the one, it's a unique space for a business to play. It's something that at Coconut Club we can't play in because we're chilled, and we tried it and it's really difficult. It costs a fortune. People don't bulk buy yogurt either, like it's a once a week product that they tend to purchase. Whereas for us to make it work, you'd have to maybe buy 6 or 7 tubs at a time for the shipping to kind of cancel out. So it didn't work for us, but so many brands I've spoken to, it does work, and it's amazing because you have a very close connection to your customer.
Yeah.
You can you have their email address. You can email them and be like, I need feedback on this, and this. You can send them direct offers to be like, hey, I haven't seen you've ordered in a while, here's a code, and then it's quite likely they might put in an offer. Make an order. And then also you can have like just that connection with your customer that it's really hard to do if you don't have that D2C presence, that you can really understand them, what they want, what they need. That if you don't have that, it's quite hard, because at a supermarket, you don't get that like, oh, John bought it, whereas you can see John bought it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's more and more of that supermarket data you can kind of start to tap into. But yes, I completely agree. I love being able to call up our customers and we do insight calls and find out like, why did you buy that? Or what how are you using this? And just like, what sort of product would you like us to launch? Like, here's some different things we're looking at. What did you like this year? What do you want next year? Especially for something like our olive oil club, where every month I'm serving up a different oil from a different place, and I want feedback on, do you want more intense oils? Do you want something more delicate? Are you just using it as like a shot in the morning? Okay, maybe I should get you like a more like antioxidant rich oil versus one that's better for cooking, So I'm trying to discover those things, and I have the opportunity because we have that direct connection.
Yeah.
It comes at a price. I hear a lot of, founders talk about, oh, well, D2C, you get to keep the margin. Well, you invest that margin, you pretty much give that right back out to your paid cost per acquisition. And then if you're in a supermarket, they're taking the margin, but like they're bringing the people to your shelf. So it's kind of like, it's an interesting, but I like the mix. I like being able to have this world to play in where I can test and I can learn and I can get these really loyal and engaged people and give them experiences. Like we did our pop-up in Notting Hill, and they could come and do aperitivo hour and do like tastings. We're doing a tasting tonight, actually a Blue Monday tasting. I don't know when this airs, but Blue Monday, like a tasting to kick off the year and guide them through. There's just different experiences you can give them. But then I also, like, I'm proud that Waitrose is like our first stockist, and I love, Ocado as a customer. Like these are outlets that I'm really proud to be in, and like being up on their shelves.
And obviously scaling is a big, I'm assuming something that you want to do, and you want to get more olive oil in more people's hands, and especially citizens of soil olive oil. But obviously we just spoke about climate, we just spoke about sourcing the right partner to work with. Yeah. So what happens when you are serving 1 million to 2 million bottles a week?
Yeah.
And the crop isn't there because of a typhoon or whatever, and you might not have the right suppliers to work with because they can't bring you that quality. How will that change as you scale?
So that's something we're working on now to build up the pipeline. We already have access to more oil than we need because we have this network. And that's part of the things that we do to bring our farmers together and have like the education side. Like on today's call, we were just talking to them about like their education grant that we're giving them each to use this year, like an allocation to either visit each other, to learn from each other, or to go to a conference, or for like a different courses. So that side of like building up their resiliency and their network and having them find other farmers and like convert other farmers like them is very much a part of like the mission. And you see this a lot in some of the great commodity supply chains that have had overhaul, like a Tony's, what they've done in the chocolate space, or what some of the incredible coffee, Cafe Direct and people have done in those spaces. Like it's that network effect, and that's what we're building up like alongside our business.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I was just thinking that actually, how do you manage that? But then, I mean, the educational piece that you just said is really important, because actually that just incentivizes other farmers to get involved.
If you tell a farmer, I'm going to pay you substantially more to stop putting your chemicals and stop tilling, like you're in the right direction. And so I think that's where we really want to get to as a business, being able to convert. Right now, we've just gone after farmers who are already, super inspirational in that space. And what we'd like is to go after producers who aren't, and convert them. And that's where you see really exciting, impactful change.
And working with supermarkets, as we mentioned, they take their cut.
Mm-hmm.
And how does sometimes their pricing structure or how they want to price it might not be something that you guys could do, or they might need X amount of funding and trigger, and you're like, I don't like, it's not possible, basically. What you're asking me, like, I physically cannot do with like my supply chain, it doesn't work. Because your story is so impactful from a sustainability point of view, and what you're trying to achieve is way bigger than a supermarket's margin right now. Like, this is a game-changing piece of, I guess, newness in the industry. How do you have those conversations and break it down with the buyer?
So I think some of the supermarkets, like when we look at Waitrose, they have a whole program now for farming with nature, which is they have their own sustainability goals and they have their own things that they're trying to do in that space. So they are really big supporters and advocates of what we're trying to do. Now, those are conversations that you can have, top level. And then ultimately when you're sitting down with your buyer, it's as if that didn't just happen.
Yeah.
You're like, didn't they just say that they need like regenerative suppliers? And don't you have a shelf that has none? So you often see these when you're pitching and when you're having conversations with buyers. So there is definitely a challenge in that. And our mind is where we just have to show up with the data and the brand. Like, our brand delivers, it's beautiful. We have an engaged audience that care about what we're doing. And also we know that our rate of sale performs. So I think that's how you can try to get around it when supermarkets will really squeeze, which, in Waitrose, we're actually not the most expensive oil, but in some supermarkets we certainly would be. And those
does the bottle like I know obviously your range is broad.
Yeah, but pouches can start at like $16.50 and bottles can start at $19.50.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are looking at things that are quite premium in the category, although there's a whole other thing I can get into on why I think the prices of olive oil are way too cheap and unethical on the commodity side. But we are in that premium space, and I think it's about making the case that your oil will perform or your product will perform. But yes, they will really try to squeeze you. And we have had to say no and walk away from, we cannot get you an oil for this price. It's just, I wouldn't even know. I mean, I know how to get that oil, but one, I don't like the quality of that oil, or two, and usually both, I don't like the sustainability side of that. I can't in good faith, like, tear up the land the way I see that grower is. So I can't buy it.
Yeah, it's interesting because like supermarkets, they want newness, they want something different to bring to their customer, yet they're also asking for similar pricing that they already have on shelf, and it's like, it's kind of impossible to give you the newness and the sustainability that's unmatched to what you have, but at the same price point as someone that doesn't necessarily give a shit about sustainability.
I see this a lot even in our category, like new brands, new entries are coming in and they are sometimes premium, and I'm like, their costs are just like, there's just no way. Like, they are definitely taking home a nice, healthier margin than we are. That's just because we pay like farmers more at the start. So I think I understand that the supermarkets have the challenge of they have to support. There's a cost of living crisis that is never ending, it seems, and they need to keep things affordable to their customers. And I know if we run certain Facebook ads or something that aren't quite the right audience, people will really complain about the pricing. Like, there's a price sensitivity to all, but it's about finding your right audience in there, because on the right shelf and in front of the right audience, it's just going to sell and it's going to make sense, and people are going to appreciate it, not just as a food, in our case, not just as a food, but as a nutritional supplement.
And there is a massive growing trend for that and need for that, and people want something that is going to be good for them, and gut brain axis. Tim Spector's doing obviously an amazing job. We're trying to educate, and ultra processed food, it's not going anywhere. So we're learning a lot every day with this as well. And what does success look like right now for Citizens of Stoyle at this stage in the journey?
What does it look like right now?
Yeah.
So coming out of Christmas, I was really happy with how our end of the year went. We were 140% up year on year.
Amazing.
Which actually we weren't so happy because we were more ambitious, but we had some like glitches along the way that meant that we weren't able to achieve what we really wanted to, but still, who can complain being up 140%? Our club members are flying. Like, we are growing our club, which is really exciting, because every time we get more club members, it gives me the opportunity to kind of reach into new small farmers. And so that's what I was talking to my farmers with this morning, is like, this is the number of club members we've ended the year on, and like, this is what we can do with it. Like, maybe there's other interesting oils we can showcase to them. And so it really opens up just more opportunities from the impact side and what we can invest into farming and this like model that we're trying to build. So it's success to me is like happy farmers, being able to invest in them, a sustainable, profitable business that also means that we can like grow at a healthy rate.
And how did you initially fund Citizens of Soil? And were there trade-offs for like the choice initially?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because, well, at first there was no funding. As I said, we had just bought a house. My husband was furloughed for part of that year. It was a very difficult, and it was just out of our whatever money we could scrape together. It was very much a bootstrapped operation. We ran it out of our house. We always used a packaging facility for like health and safety, of course, but like we would box up the orders and like label things ourselves sometimes. And it was just wild what we did that first bit, take it to the post office ourselves. So the trade-off for that is, you just don't have money. I mean, it's like the reality. If you don't come from money and you don't have a safety net or a family or somebody that can kind of support you, then there is no real safety net. And that's when there's real risk involved. It's one thing if, you're fortunate and privileged enough to have like a family that can kind of do that. And we still worked. It also meant that we worked all the way until we fundraised, until we got to the point that we had a strong business case, that we were growing at a rate we couldn't support. We could not buy enough oil. We could not keep the business running because of the demand was far outweighed what we could actually afford. And from that point is whenever and it wasn't actually until this past Christmas that last Christmas that my husband quit his full-time job, but he still works in consulting. So there's always going to be compromises because as a founder, often you're one of the lower paid people in your business, at least for a while at the start. And any money that you have, you're putting into your business yourself. Like I remember we sold our house and we're like, should we put this money into the business so we don't have to fundraise again for like 2 months or something? So you make a lot of compromises, on holidays and buying homes and splashy things that your friends might be doing. But I think it far outweighs it because you enjoy the journey and you're doing something.
And also, like, you can't put a price on purpose. And I think, it's nice to have nice things, etc. But ultimately, like, I don't remember my friends for their handbags or their nice earrings, although I'm looking at earrings thinking they are lovely.
Oh, vintage.
They're so nice.
Sustainability through and through.
I was just looking at them thinking they're lovely, and that's why I said earrings. But if they, if I met you years ago and you were my really good friend, I'd be like, oh, that's really cool what Sarah's doing. I don't care about the stuff she has, but what she's done has been incredibly impactful. That's what I remember you for. So it's that purpose that you also have every day that I think is big. And I think, I meet a lot of people, like my friends, like, oh, Zoe, you're so lucky you have something outside your day job that you really care about and that you have like a purpose to do. And I never thought about it like that because, if I didn't have this on the side, what would I'd have to do something else. Like I'm a doer person, like type of human. So I think for you, it's like, you might not be able to right now. I'm sure one day when you sell and you're on your yacht in St. Bart's, it'll be a different story. But right now...
It won't be a yacht in St. Bart's. It'll be a little olive grove probably in Spain.
Sorry, of course, from Spain really. Or maybe like one that doesn't use the like really gorgeous boats that have that are like done on wind, But
the thing is, like, of course, like I think every founder, well, especially if you raise money, your plan is probably to sell that business at some point. I really enjoy the journey. I love olive oil. Like I want to work in it in some capacity forever. And I know, and I see a lot of businesses that start up and they're just, they might like the business, but if you gave them a check, they would like sign out. They just like, leave the business immediately and be very happy with that. For me, I genuinely want olive oil to always be a part of my life. And I love what I do. And if I wasn't doing this, maybe I'd still do something with farmers to be able to support them in some way.
And you said this year about finishing your team, or like not finishing it, but building out your team. So how are you funding that now? Have you raised any more? Have you raised at all?
Yes, we have done 2 fundraisers. So we fundraised really the first time for Waitrose, like when we got the Waitrose deal. If you look at that cash flow model I haven't talked about, I think Waitrose told us in November, we were going back and forth on how many stores, like how many SKUs, like how many stores, what that would be. So I had to source specifically for it. So that was in November. They told me the amount and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much oil I have to buy. Like I literally can't. So I went and found a new producer because I didn't have enough with the existing producers. I went out and worked with her in December and January. I flew to Greece, bought the oil on the spot, brought it over in like February, packaged it up in March and April, transferred it over to Waitrose in April, got it on shelf like May and June. You don't get paid till that summer. So like, look at that cash flow. Look at how much money. You just can't do that. Like, how are you supposed to do that? Somebody tells you, oh, you're getting like 155 Waitrose stores. It's a celebration, but you're just like, actually, how am I supposed to pay for this? So that was our first fundraise.
Yeah. You get to the point where you're like, I need some cash. I can't do it without
Absolutely. And then, yeah, we've had phenomenal growth on our D2C. It's now 70% of our business, even though we're in Waitrose and Ocado and Booths and Planned Organic and Fortnum's and Selfridges and some of our oils. Not all of them have our whole range because we have some limited editions and interesting oils that aren't across the whole, all the retail space. But D2C is still 70% of our business, so that required more fundraise.
Yeah, it is a big part. And what financial lesson do you wish more early stage founders understood sooner?
I'd say getting to grips with your margins.
Yeah.
And we made this accident as well, because when we first started, actually our first stock is before Selfridges we were only going to be D2C. So we just like got our price right for D2C. And not even knowing what acquisition, we didn't even run ads that first 2 years or something. So it didn't really matter. Certainly didn't understand how that would work later on. But when we got our first order was from a friend of ours who had a wine shop that had converted, it was a wine bar that converted into a wine shop. And they gave us kind of like margins based on like markup. And it just wasn't accurate. It literally wasn't how the whole market, because they weren't really a wine shop. They had been a wine bar. And so they just done it slightly differently. It meant we set all of our pricing as if like this was the word of God. And like, this is how it's going to be. And it wasn't actually accurate. So then the margin wasn't that high in the end, which meant that everyone was pushing back. Like, what are you talking about? This can't be. So that was a hard lesson, and kind of had to like work with that. But I also I talk to a lot of young founders all the time who want to price competitively out the gate. Don't. Like, do not price, like give yourself, you cannot go back up. So start high and then you can go down. Don't start. Like, these people are barely making any money off their sales, nothing to reinvest, nothing to grow, nothing that's sustainable, nothing that's going to incentivize, retail. So I think making sure you have a full grip on your margins and cost and everything is so essential at the beginning. But it's probably every time I talk with a founder that's just starting up who wants to like, kind of run me through it, that's the thing. They're always like, well, this price is like a bit too low, but like this is what I've been told to do. And I'm like, why would you do that?
Yeah, you're right. Because what's your USP then? Like, if you're going to go in and premiumize a category, which is what exactly like small FMCG is all about, like that's what we're all trying to do, right? We're all trying to make something nicer in that space and premiumize it and bring, that. You can't do what the Philip Iberia, whatever his name is. I just hear that, Philip Iberia. Yeah. You can't do what they're doing, because ultimately, like, if you could, you would already be in the supermarkets.
Yeah.
So don't sell yourself short.
Yeah.
Like, what you're giving the customer is 10 million, triple billion times that quality.
Yeah.
So don't give them the price.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, it doesn't make sense that you'd be the same price as the bog standard, which is on the shelf and everyone's familiar with. But it also leaves you no room to actually keep running your business.
For sure. And you're right, you can never, ever, ever go up. You can come down. I mean, you can put through CPIs and stuff, but gosh, the backlog of why and who and where.
Yes. And it doesn't really resonate with customer. I mean, we've actually had to do it once on our olive oil club. Yeah, we've had small incremental, but it's not a comfortable thing, and you certainly can't do it quite substantially.
Absolutely. And thinking about the future, when you think about the future of Citizens of Soil, what excites you most and what scares you?
What scares me the most is the climate crisis, which is like, a generational problem. So can't be solved by us alone. But I do feel like it does worry me to the extent of, well, for me, finding new regions and new producers, but I still have a lot of care and affection for my current producers and feel for them and what they're going through. I worry. I think that has a huge impact on our food system. And I don't think we've really realized the full extent. I mean, we see the headlines about the price of chocolate has gone up so substantially, and like coffee's disappearing, and we haven't maybe really felt it fully. And so I feel like we're really in for it. So that is scary. But the thing that gives me the most, joy or things to look forward to is, on the other side of that, I love the opportunity of what we could build out with farmers and the impact we could have with them. So even just like small little changes that are going to make their oils a better quality, which means that we could pay more. So even if their yield isn't as strong, we can make the case, okay, we're going to do these richer in antioxidant oils, and that's what we're going to do. So we can charge more for it, so you can make more, even though your yield is down. It's going to help supplement the cost. Just because your yield is down doesn't mean you're going to lose that much money. Building out the farmer program is really exciting. And also like just getting people, I love sharing the world of extra virgin olive oil with people. We've taken our whole team out to harvest, but this year we had a couple of our super fans go to different harvests with our farmers.
Wow.
Like one, she did, it must have been a couple of weeks out in Portugal with one of our producers. One guy, he took, I think his wife for anniversary or birthday with some friends out there to harvest with one of our producers in Greece.
Oh my
and
God, that's
that
amazing.
connection of like literally farm to table, but like you meeting the producers, knowing where it comes from and having a relationship is something. That's why we put their names on the pack. That's why we want to celebrate them. Like I love the fact that people talk about our bottles like, oh, Anna's like the Portuguese producer Anna, like when sometimes they they'll write comments and reviews, and I'm like, oh, they know the farmer, like they actually care, and that's just like a total delight and joy, and what I think is a really cool opportunity in the space.
And the community that you've built, like that is priceless.
Is the opportunity.
A huge opportunity, like building that, no one can take that away. So like having your community that support you and like back you. Because I think like if you're a massive brand, you do lose a bit of that connection with your community. Like as you grow, naturally that does happen. But when you are at the stage of like early founder to even like SME size, having that community, like brands, I think people buy from people.
Yeah. I mean, we've often talked about, I want to make our marketing even more like farmer led. Like how can we get them more like the face of the business and get them involved? So yeah, I think, the community is definitely the opportunity, and it's what that opens us up to a lot of interesting things that are offline as well that we can connect people to.
And what's your North Star for 2026? If you had like 2 things you need to achieve this year, what would be top?
The biggest ambitious project is probably launching in the US.
Okay. Taking on the beast.
Yeah, taking on the beast, going back to my roots. About 50% of our organic website traffic comes from the US right now, and we just turn it away, and we get requests for orders all the time. So we are trying to navigate that. It's been something we thought about for a few years, and we put it off every year because I'm a big fan of when you start your business, like just do like play in your own backyard and like do well there, like make that win before you try. You often see founders really stretch themselves like 1 year in, they're like, I'm now launching in Dubai and I'm doing something in Europe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like so much of a stretch. I mean, it works for certain business models, but for us, like being so community centric and wanting to like really have relationships with our customers, it just didn't work. So this year will be a test in the US and sending over some of our oils. And as the US is in a moment of change as well, it only complicates it even more. So it's quite a hurdle, but it's as the biggest consumer market in the world and one that's way more advanced in extra virgin olive oil than this country. They are a massive market for premium olive oils. They understand it. I mean, this is why certain brands have already launched and done extremely well there. So I'm excited to play in this space. The US is a fascinating market.
If you crack the US, I mean, wow, like so many brands have tried and it's like completely synced like 5-6 million just by like looking at it.
Exactly. So the tests there. I also think there's a benefit of both my partner and I being American, knowing exactly the names of the stores, how it works, where we'd want to be, where we'd want to play. But yeah, it's a fun next chapter.
And what has building Citizens of Soil taught you about yourself that surprised you?
I don't know, actually. I'd say I feel very confident in it in a way that I don't think I ever really felt confident in my career before. Like I have such a conviction in it coming up in agencies and marketing. Like obviously I was good at my job. I kept getting promoted and having like really great opportunities, but I don't think I ever, and of course I still have imposter syndrome like crazy, but I actually, when it comes to olive oil, I think I have access. I don't think I'm like this incredible expert, but I have access and I know so much. Like there's very little people can ask me that I don't know. And there's like nothing you can ask me that I can't get an answer to in a few minutes from one of my contacts on WhatsApp being like one of the world's best millers or the world's best producer of this or whatever. So I'm very like the confidence that I've been able to get out of being an entrepreneur. It's a weird thing because it's also like the biggest blow to your confidence because it's so personal. Every loss is like down to you, but so is every win. And so it's, I think confidence is something that I've gained from being an entrepreneur.
It's funny, confidence is like such a powerful tool. Like if you have it and even if you don't know anything, but you're confident, you can walk into a meeting and ultimately like close a deal and then be like, well, that's because I was confident.
So I don't have that. I don't have the business confidence.
Okay.
Fortunately, I have a co-founder who does have been a serial entrepreneur himself, and probably just being a male, like a white male with an MBA, gives him a lot of like power in situations, which is unfortunate. Me, I don't naturally have that, but if the topic of olive oil comes up, I feel very confident in that. So,
and what has been the highest high of building Citizens of Soil?
The highest high was probably two things. One, getting into Waitrose so early on was massive and transformative, and it's the dream supermarket. You know, whenever I first moved to this country, I would go to it like every day after on my walk home from work, and it was a big Waitrose, and I would just be like, oh, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. And two, actually just this year, bringing all of our farmers together for this meetup, that's something I've wanted to do. I mean, this is even our farmer from South Africa, you know, Greece, Portugal, people who don't, our farmer in Greece had never even left Greece, and brought them to Portugal to all learn from each other and talk with an agronomist and walk through groves and go through mills and just like understand and learn together. Was like the way they felt, like it was just so emotional. Like honestly, it was a beautiful moment for all of us. And they felt like so appreciated, and we were so appreciative of them. And it was just this incredible like full circle moment to have everything kind of come back and bring them together.
Yeah, that's really special. And what's been your lowest low of building Citizens of Soil?
We've had two big, one that always hits because it was quite emotional, which was a couple years ago now, but it still feels raw. One of our batches from our second producer that we ever brought over, who's still like one of our extra rares, absolutely world celebrated for the quality of oils that she makes, but it's such a small batch, like such a tiny batch, and she only ever like sells a little bit, and we were able to get an allocation. And she's incredible. She's a farmer and a producer, does the milling, does everything in the groves. She's spectacular. Her oil came over, and everyone always orders it right away, like it's on pre-order, and people want it because it's really high and rich in antioxidants. And the batch was at the bottling facility, and they connected the machinery wrong, and it all went down the drain. And it was a year's worth of her work. And it was an oil that she fought really hard for in the mill because she had a lot of like problems. And that year the climate was insane. I think there was fires near them. There was all these complications. And this oil represented a year's worth of resilience and endurance and everything. And then it just went down the drain.
I'd be licking the floor.
Oh my God. Well, I wasn't there. It was at this bottling facility. No. And it was, we were completely gutted. You know, obviously we had paid her, and insurance was able to cover, you know, some of the costs we lost. So it wasn't about the money. It was about what was lost. Yeah. And I remember having to call her, and she like held the phone so she could cry. And I was like, oh my, and I like still want to cry thinking about it. It was really hard. So that was,
God, even I feel that. I don't like know the situation, but like
it was devastating to tell a producer who trusts you with something that they work so hard. And most of my producers don't really sell to a lot of other people, or some of them don't sell to anyone else. And so this is like an act of faith that, you know, that they even let us, or a leap of faith that they even let us take over their crop and represent it. And so, that was really hard, and still probably the most emotionally charged. And then we've had some website issues. We just had a problem over Christmas where our subscription company made an update right before Christmas that meant that almost, or at least loads of the people that got gift certificates on Christmas morning, which was a lot because a lot of people gifted our oil this year, the link was broken. And it feels like a little hiccup, but it's like, it just ruins the whole experience.
Course,
and it meant hours and days and like so much emails, and just like the whole team had to lean in all over Christmas and the start of January to sort this problem that was just caused by a tech glitch from a platform that was completely outside of our control.
Yeah.
And it's just like draining when you're trying to end out the year. And you're like, oh, we've had all this success and it's been so great. And then it just shows you like the realities of a startup. You think you have a great year, and then you spend all these days cleaning up a mess.
Yeah. God, what a nightmare.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on Getting to Grow. It has been like fascinating learning about it. And actually like a podcast that I'm sat here and I'm thinking there's so much emotion behind what you do. It's not just, you're not here to just put a product on a supermarket shelf. Like there's a story, there's a reason, there's a purpose. Like there's there's so much in this that's like more than, as I said, like a supermarket shelf ready product. So
I'd be so bored with just that.
I know, but you'd be like the people I do like. You know, I do speak to obviously so many founders, and it's rare. Like I speak in small FMCG, so so many people are passionate, but totally. I feel it from you. Like I really feel the like why you're doing this, and it's huge. Like I'd love to learn more actually about it and like understand this.
Come to one of our tastings.
Well, I'm now like really in on the tastings. I want to come, and my boyfriend's obsessed with cooking, and he loves his olive oil. So
we just launched this thing where every 2 months, every other month, here in our offices, we're gonna have like just let people come down and do a guided tasting with like some lovely pairings. So kind of what we did at our olive oil bar in the summer.
I'm in
because so many people want to learn about olive oil. I'm like, just come here and we'll do a lovely little tasting in our office with like interesting little food pairings, and just like geeky. Learn about all of it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so coming. Quick fire questions. So, one belief about food you have completely changed your mind on.
So that fat is good for you. Fat is so good.
Yeah.
But the quality of fat is like paramount in that decision. So before I got into extra virgin olive oil, and still now everyone tells you, but like, oh, the calories and all these sorts of things. Fat is like really instrumental to our health and nutrition and what we need. So yeah, that's just like out the window.
A moment that has made you feel proud recently.
My call today with all of our farmers getting together and hearing their harvest updates for better or for worse. It was lovely. And even if we're about to cry at times or laugh at times when we're talking about harvest, that's the, I'm extremely proud of what we've built.
And one thing you wished you knew from day one.
Back to what I was saying about, I wish I understood how you could introduce a product and pitch a product before you actually had invested all of your time and money in like years worth of work behind it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one. But thank you. Yeah. Loved it. Super exciting episode.
Thank you.